yeah, you know.
So if you can't hear me too well over this noise in the background, it's because we've arrived in Lviv on a day when they're doing a drifting competition through the centre of the city, which is pretty cool. We're just going to go down and have a quick look at that now. We've got a couple of hours now before we need to check into our hotel, so it'll give us a little bit of time to kill. Okay, catch you later. It's now Monday morning, it's the day after we arrived, and this behind me is our hotel. Might be a little bit noisy here because we're on a main road, but our room is lovely, right at the back of the hotel, really quiet, really nicely appointed, and had a fantastic night's sleep. Today we're going to go out and do a little bit of photography, hopefully. It's a bit of a grey day, but I'm going to expand on my glimpses of theme, which I started in London in May, June, where I just tried to shoot something that relates to the city without shooting the cliche of the city. For example, you know, you might have Big Ben do a sort of standard cliche shot, but then you might frame it through something and actually have the focus on that particular thing that you're shooting through rather than Big Ben itself. So it's a different way of representing cities, and that's what I'm going to try and do today a little bit with Lviv. I'm taking my X-T4 and I will predominantly use my 55mm lens, 55 to 200mm lens I should say, but I have my other lenses with me just in case. So let's head out and have a look around Lviv. Possible first shot here. It's just outside the side entrance to the Armenian church in Lviv, and there's a beautiful clock. I'm not sure that it's particularly old, but it's framed by some green leaves from a side of a building, which looks kind of nice. So we'll just try and take a shot of that and see how it comes out. So there's another potential shot here. We've got this very ornate gate on the side of the Armenian church, and I'm actually going to focus on the gate rather than the background, and use a relatively wide aperture, at least as wide as I can go on a 55 to 200, and see what sort of shot we can get out of this. Another potential shot here, got a lovely gateway at the other side of the Armenian church, and I'm just going to wait for somebody to walk past and see if we can get a shot as they walk past. There's another potential shot down here, shooting into the sun with a slight dome in the background. You probably won't make it out too easily on the camera because it's actually very wide angle, but we'll see if we can get a shot that looks halfway decent. Particular shot is no good, even at 300mm it's basically too far away, so it doesn't work. There is, however, another shot that might be quite nice. If you can see, there's a little shop sign with a cat and a beautiful ornate old building behind me, so we'll see if we can get something out of that. Another kind of cool shot here. It's just a bit of modern art, sort of a tiny little bit of discreet modern art on a side of a wall, and a beautiful old door, sort of a traditional Lviv door in the background, and split it into thirds, sort of the modern art on two of the thirds and the door on one of the thirds, and it should look quite a nice shot. Let's have a quick look at it. Little shot I'm going to do here is got these sort of fairy lights from this restaurant in this little alleyway here, but just recessed into the wall of that building is a kind of cute little statuette of an old man carrying what looks to be a child on his back, and I'm actually just going to focus on the fairy lights and let the statue drift into the background and see how that works out. This is actually one of my favourite photo locations in Lviv. Unfortunately, it seems to have been a bit graffitied. I just love the sort of circles, the arches. It's got this kind of Hobbit feel to it, as if you're in Middle Earth. And sadly, there's just graffiti all over it, which is pro-Ukrainian graffiti as well, which with Lviv being the heart of Ukrainian nationalism, it's not entirely surprising, but it's very sad. Behind me is the Church of the Holy Eucharist. It's one of the largest churches in Lviv. I believe it's Catholic, however I'm no expert on religion, that despite having spent several of my earlier years in a Church of England school. I'll check that up a little bit later. Another kind of cool shot behind me, just sort of noticed there's a shop sign that's sort of a teapot, and I've framed that with the sort of church spires behind. That seems to work quite well because it's backlit with a lot of high contrast. I think this one will actually work really well in black and white, so we'll have a look at that in post-production. Here's another shot that seems to work really well behind me. You've got this very ornate balcony and the spire of the church, and by carefully framing in sort of portrait format with the longer lens, you can get a really nice shot showing the juxtaposition between the different types of architecture here. I'm not sure what the backstory is, but for some reason Lviv is famous for coffee, and there are coffee places all over the city, fresh ground coffee. We're in perhaps the most famous at the moment, which is called the Coffee Mine. And it's actually a sort of a humorous museum where you go down into the cellars and see the coffee being mined. But as well as that, it's actually a really good cafe with lots and lots of different types and varieties of coffee. And I've just ordered the evening coffee, which is fresh beans with caramel and milk. So I'm quite looking forward to seeing what that's like. Steeping it in a ceramic funnel, which is ideal for preserving the same temperature throughout the whole process. The drink has an intense aroma and tender flavour. And this one is evening coffee Vechilnya, which is coffee with caramel and milk. So let's see what it tastes like. I can confirm that the Vechilnya is absolutely delicious, really nice. One of the interesting things about Lviv is how architecturally different it is to Odessa. I mean, obviously both are in the same country, but they have very different histories. Lviv is actually a lot older than Odessa, and is very sort of Hanseatic. It's very close to the Polish border, and there is a sort of very Polish influence here. It's also very Ukrainian. It's probably the most Ukrainian city in Ukraine, whereas Odessa is much more Mediterranean. A lot of the architecture was built by architects from Italy and from France, and you can really feel that architectural difference. Lviv is a lot less pretentious as well. There's a lot of rich people in Odessa, and as such there's a lot of rich pretentious cafes and bars. There's a lot of very good restaurants and bars as well, but there are quite a few sort of very pretentious ones. Here no sushi, no pretentious salads. Just really good food. They love meat here, so there's some really great barbecue restaurants, and shashlik, which is Ukrainian barbecue. Coffee, of course, which I've mentioned, and also it's very famous for chocolate. I'm not sure again why that is, but it's so steeped in chocolate, if you like, that the Belgians actually have a consulate here, because Lviv imports a lot of its chocolate from Belgium. The other thing that they're famous for, of course, is beer, which is another one of my passions, of course, and that's they have breweries out in the Carpathian Mountains, and they use the waters from the Carpathians to brew the beers, and there's some pretty amazing beers that come out of Lviv. In fact, in my local in Odessa, my favourite beer is called Lvovskoye, which is from this region, named after the city, although it's actually owned by the giant Carlsberg Corporation now. If you've enjoyed this video, don't forget to give us a thumbs up, and even better, a subscription. If you want to stay up to date when we publish new videos, ring the notifications bell. See you all again soon.